Next on the news, he says his faith is driving him to help. The owner of a new restaurant on Staten Island is feeding the migrants who just arrived in the city. Our Jessica Easthope spoke with him and tells us he's now facing a boycott. And
this decision today only makes it more likely that the next mass shooting will be attempted.
Families of the victims in the Parkland school shooting angered over the jury's sentencing decision for Nikolas Cruz. Also, Social Security recipients set to get the biggest boost in their checks in 40 years. Plus, the special way a parish in Queens is paying tribute to Blessed Carlo Acutis. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. A Staten Island business owner is taking the migrant crisis into his own hands, putting politics aside to feed the hungry. Hundreds of migrants are living in 2 hotels in the Travis neighborhood. They don't have enough food or clothing and have been going door to door asking for donations. Currents News' Jessica Easthope is with us now to talk about the pizza place that's helping out. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Christine. When I met Sebastian Bongiovanni, the owner of Verdes Pizza and Pasta House, for the first time, one of the first things he said to me was, "I'm a Republican. I don't agree with migrants coming here illegally, but I'm a Catholic first." And for the last week, he and his wife, Danielle, have been feeding migrants who come to their business and hand delivering fresh, hot food to them at night, something the migrants say they haven't had since they arrived.
Verdes Pizza and Pasta House has been open for 31 days. But its owner is already giving away free food. Sebastian Bongiovanni and his wife Danielle say they worked for 20 years to open their own business. But their American dream is happening at the same time as a humanitarian crisis, right outside their front door.
We're open 31 days. Was it meant for me to help out? I don't know. Only God knows. But I know if I have food, I'm not going to make someone go hungry.
The pizza we gave last night, and young kids.
Every night, Sebastian and Danielle hand deliver fresh, hot food to the hundreds of migrants living in the Holiday Inn Express and Comfort Inn on Staten Island.
The Catholic in me is in the core of my heart, right? And we live by certain things. Women and children cannot go hungry.
The migrants are telling people the conditions are unlivable.
Orange juice, a cheese sandwich, and for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's what they're getting.
Verdes is also taking donations.
In the special instructions, you're going to tell us what you want to do with your money.
The orders posted on the wall say it all.
And the Lord will repay him for his deed. Psalm 19:17.
Yeah.
Quilted blankets for them, socks.
Agnes Vandina and Kathy Molino made their donation last night and stopped by today to say thank you and bring more supplies to the migrants.
It's study the corporal works of mercy. It's feed the hungry. They're hungry. Clothe the naked, and they need clothes.
She kept on saying, look at me, look at me. My clothes are so dirty. And they're just standing here waiting for anything.
Sebastian and Danielle say they're learning now no good deed goes unpunished. People in the conservative neighborhood are angry. Some have even called for a boycott of his business.
If you don't want to come to Verdes because I help people, don't come. Don't want you. We make the best pizza in town. The people come here, they get a smile, they get a laugh. And you know what? There's a lot of people that will come and continue to come. And that's what we're here for.
Sebastian says he understands why his community is upset, but he's going to continue to feed the migrants for as long as they need. Christine?
Jess, I know you've heard from the people who are trying to help and from the migrants themselves, but tell us a little bit more about the conditions there.
Yeah, so like you heard, these migrants are being fed cold food 3 meals a day. And for these people who are coming from South America, cold cheese sandwiches isn't exactly part of their diet. And through a translation app and speaking with them, they told me they're desperate for food, warmer clothing, and toiletries. They're desperate for toiletries, but what they really want most is work. They want to find jobs.
And the city is running these hotels, right?
Right. So it's a little complicated because from what I heard from someone at the hotel today, the hotel employees are all staying on in their normal positions, running the hotel. And the city is actually overseeing the food and the services the migrants are getting. But what I heard today actually is that Project Hospitality, which is a well-known faith-based organization on Staten Island that helps the homeless and the food insecure, they're actually going to start taking over the donations that are coming in to kind of distribute distribute them evenly and make sure that they get to the families most in need, because people in Staten Island really just want to help, but they're bringing boxes and boxes, and it's not really regulated right now.
Wow. All right, Jess, this story is not going anywhere. Thanks so much. We'll check back in with you.
Thank you.
And if you want to put in an order for the migrants from Verdes, you can do so on their website, verdespizzashop.com, or you can call them at 718-982-7070. New numbers are showing just how badly the migrant crisis is overwhelming New York City shelters. According to data from the Department of Homeless Services, on October 10th, more than 62,000 individuals stayed in city shelters. That breaks the previous record from January of 2019, when there were 61,415 people. The average length of stay is also growing. Single adults now spend an average of 509 days in shelters. Families with kids, 534 days, and adult families spend an average of 855 days. Many of the migrants who have arrived in the Big Apple recently are from Latin America, and now the Department of Homeland Security has confirmed it will roll out a new program geared toward Venezuelan migrants looking to come to the U.S. It's similar to the approach the administration took toward Ukrainians earlier this year. They must apply, have a sponsor in the U.S., and undergo screening and vetting. Those who enter illegally will be returned to Mexico. The Social Security Administration has a new plan to lessen the impact of high inflation in the U.S. The agency is going to boost benefits for recipients, raising the annual cost of living next year close to 9%, the highest increase in more than 40 years. Isabel Rosales breaks down the numbers and what it means for you.
A new report out Thursday from the Bureau of Labor Statistics is revealing something most Americans already know. The prices of consumer goods and services are still surging, and people are feeling the pain everywhere, from the supermarket checkout to the doctor's office.
It's not just disappointing, it's actually damaging for households in the sense that their buying power has been robbed by inflation.
Data from September's Consumer Price Index came in hotter than expected, showing inflation rising 8.2% last month compared to a year earlier. That means despite September's lower gas prices and aggressive actions from the Federal Reserve, which take time to have a pronounced effect, just about everything got more expensive.
The major contributors to this rising inflation in the latest reading include many things that we cannot do without. This includes food, shelter, a measure basically of rent or what we're paying with our house payments, as well as medical care.
In response to the exploding cost of living, the Social Security Administration announced an 8.7% boost in monthly payments beginning next year, the largest increase in more than 40 years. But some analysts say this still won't be enough to help the 70 million benefits recipients weather the financial storm.
I am concerned, however, that that doesn't quite keep pace with inflation or the real costs that many people have to pay when we're thinking about shelter, heating costs, and medical care and prescription drugs.
Isabel Rosales, Currents News.
The International Energy Agency is warning that OPEC's planned oil production cut could tip the world economy into a recession. Last week, OPEC decided to slash oil production by 2 million barrels a day, or about 2% of global oil demand. That's the largest amount since the start of the pandemic. The IEA said Thursday that this could be the tipping point for an economy already on the brink, especially with interest rate hikes and inflation taking a toll. Also tonight, outrage over the fate of the Parkland school shooter.
We are beyond disappointed with the outcome today.
Today's ruling was yet another gut punch for so many of us.
Now on Currents News, the jury's recommendation of life without parole for Nikolas Cruz. Today's verdict came soon after jurors sat down for a second day of deliberations, and families of the 17 victims from the mass shooting were in the courtroom as the jury spared the life of Nikolas Cruz. Mike Valerio has the latest.
Tears are shed, hands held tight.
We, the jury, unanimously find that the state has established beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the aggravating factor. Nikolas Cruz knowingly created a great risk of death to many persons. Yes.
Only a judge's voice cuts through the silence in a Florida courtroom as she reads aloud a jury's recommended sentences to Parkland school shooter Nikolas Cruz.
We, the jury, unanimously find that the aggravating factors that were proven beyond a reasonable doubt outweigh the mitigating circumstances established? No.
Cruz is now set to be formally sentenced November 1st after pleading guilty last October to 17 counts of murder and 17 counts of attempted murder for killing 14 students and 3 school staff members in a shooting rampage at Florida's Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in February 2018.
I pray that that animal suffers every day of his life in jail.
Some victims' family members showing clear frustration as life sentence after life sentence is recommended, and Cruz avoids a death sentence.
I sent my daughter to school and she was shot 8 times. I am so beyond disappointed and frustrated with this outcome. I do not understand. I just don't understand this.
You set a precedent for the next mass killing, and nothing happens to you. You'll get life in jail.
Mike Valerio, Currents News.
Shortly after the verdict, Archbishop Thomas Wensky of the Archdiocese of Miami released this statement, reading in part, "A sentence of life in prison without possibility of parole is a severe and just punishment that also will allow Nikolas Cruz to continue to reflect on the grave harm he caused." While not excusing his actions, it is clear that multiple and systemic breakdowns within family services, police, and the public school system failed him and the rest of us as well. There's a lot more news headed your way. It's a startling statistic. 23,000 babies' lives lost every year because of potentially preventable stillbirths.
I grieve every day for Valentina.
One grieving dad tells us how he's trying to change that. Plus, a Catholic church targeted by vandals. We'll tell you where the latest crime against the faith happened. And a mass that hasn't been held since before the pandemic will be celebrated tonight, offering hope to survivors of sexual abuse. It's a pain many couples endure. Every day in America, there are 65 stillborn babies. Many of these deaths could have been prevented. That's why grieving parents and others will be marching in Washington, D.C. this weekend. Joining us now is Christian Ortiz, an employee of DeSales Media, the parent company of Currents News, who will be part of the big push. Christian, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
So I know this weekend is going to be very emotional for you and Crystal. Tell us your story. Why is this march important?
Well, first of all, we had a full-term child. So for 9 months, we went into prenatal care, sonograms, ultrasounds. We were told healthy baby, healthy heartbeat, healthy heartbeat. And then we show up for delivery, and she was dead. And she had been dead for a couple of days. So I don't understand how that's possible with all the technology and all the prenatal care that's available, how we can be told on Thursday we're delivering a healthy baby next week, and then we show up on Tuesday and she's dead.
Oh my goodness.
And so she was born still. And we are called to action. There are 2 bills right now on the Senate floor. One is for tightening up the guidelines for prenatal care.
Right.
And secondly, the states' rights. For example, New York State, I had already been approved for paid family leave so I can bond with my daughter. I had been approved for child tax credits. So those were approved.
Okay.
And then when she was born still, I was then denied those benefits from the state that gave them to me.
Wow.
And that's also not okay.
Yeah, the state doesn't recognize that as a need to have one. Wow. I know this Saturday, you and Crystal will be among those pushing empty baby strollers past the steps of Congress. That's a pretty powerful message. What's the goal here? You want these passed, obviously.
So 23,000 parents will be pushing empty strollers to the Capitol. That's a pretty powerful message, and that's going to represent each baby that had died in the past year. So that's the message. The goal is to have these pieces of legislation passed.
Because obviously this is happening and it shouldn't be happening. You guys saying most of them are preventable. So the health care there needs to be better health care.
Yes, so half of these stillbirths in America are preventable. And 1/3 of stillbirths in the United States are from families of color and of families with low socioeconomic status. So there's a disparity here that needs to be addressed.
And oftentimes people will think of this as a woman's health issue, not a man's. And obviously that's incorrect. I mean, here you are, you're affected by this, and you're actually speaking at the event.
Yeah, so part of the process, part of the rally is to draw awareness that this is just not a woman's issue. This is a human issue. So I was asked to speak on behalf of grieving fathers at the rally, and I graciously accepted. So I'll be speaking on Saturday on behalf of fathers that lost a child.
That can't be easy. No. But you feel it's important.
I feel it's important, and I'm up for it, and I am honored that they asked me to do it.
And really quickly, tell me about your shirt. Valentina is your daughter.
Valentina was my daughter. She still is my daughter. I loved her very much. And she was taken away from me in a way that was unfair. And I grieve every day for Valentina, and I love her every day. And this is just a way for me to, I have, her Bobo here, her pacifier. This is just a way for me to honor her and pay homage. I've also run marathons in her name, and I've done a lot of things to be a good parent, and it's difficult to understand what parenthood looks like after your child has passed, but it does exist. I'll always be a parent, and I love her very much, so.
And you will honor her this weekend at the Big Push. Christian Ortiz, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
And again, the Big Push is happening on Saturday, October 15th at 1 p.m. in Washington, D.C. and nationwide. If you'd like to attend, register at pushpregnancy.org/bigpush. And if you can't attend the event, you can still send a donation at pushpregnancy.org/donate. Those who wish to help are also being encouraged to contact your local legislative representative at congress.gov. Meanwhile, some lawmakers have contacted the FBI looking for information regarding recent pro-life arrests. Republicans in both the House and Senate wrote a letter to the FBI's director asking why the Bureau appears to be targeting pro-life people while seemingly turning a blind eye toward attacks against pro-life entities. A church in Lansing, Michigan has released surveillance video of pro-abortion vandals spray painting anti-Catholic graffiti. It happened on October 8th at the Church of the Resurrection. The three people can be seen walking up and spray painting the walkway, the doors, and the church's sign before they ran off. Right now, police have not made any arrests. The topic of abortion will be directly on the ballot in 5 states during the midterm elections in November. In California, voters will decide if abortion should be enshrined in the state constitution. Michigan and Vermont will also vote to amend their constitutions. Meantime, Kentucky wants to change their constitution to not protect abortion and prohibit state funding for it. Finally, in Montana, voters will decide on a pro-life bill that would declare babies born alive legal persons, especially after an attempted abortion. That bill would also punish medical providers who do not take action to preserve the life of the infants. Voters in November may also be swayed by the state of the economy. Soaring inflation and interest rates, along with a jittery Wall Street, have many concerned about their nest egg. Jen Sullivan has some tips on what you can do to protect your portfolio.
Anxiety is high for both investors on Wall Street and Americans trying to protect their retirement and savings in this bear market, meaning many stock prices are falling and driving down Americans' wealth.
What I see for a lot of people is panicking. Should I even be investing in the market?
And it comes as Americans continue to face soaring inflation and interest rates, a mix that has consumers concerned.
Folks are really struggling to make ends meet, and then the idea of putting money into the market when it's so volatile at this point, I think it's causing a lot of people a lot of anxiety.
Latina money expert Janice Torres has these 5 tips to protect your nest egg. Number 1, check your existing assets and be realistic about how much you're investing.
I like to tell folks, don't invest any money that you don't need for at least 10 years.
2, prioritize your emergency fund. Cash is king for rainy days ahead, so have a good cushion to weather any potential financial storm ahead.
There's a lot of possibilities for folks to lose their jobs. Increasing your cash savings in case you do end up losing your job is a great position to be in.
3, reconsider your contributions to your 401k and Roth IRA and other retirement accounts, and make adjustments to make sure you can boost your cash savings. Number 4, if you're in good financial footing, then this may be a good time to take advantage of the volatile pricing of the stock market.
When things are on sale, it's a great time to buy. As a consumer, we like to buy things on sale, and so the stock market is pretty much the same concept.
And finally, stay calm. Avoid checking your accounts too much if it's causing you panic. I'm Jen Sullivan.
The U.S. is sending a delegation to Haiti to help with the security crisis there. Haiti's prime minister and the UN Secretary General asked for assistance because of widespread protests and gang violence. The country is also facing a cholera outbreak and shortages of food and fuel. The U.S. will assist the Haitian National Police and will also send a major Coast Guard cutter vessel to patrol the waters around Port-au-Prince. Still to come on Currents News, he could be the first saint that looks like them. That's why a room where the youth of a Queens church gather is named after him. Plus, a special mass is being held in the Diocese of Brooklyn for prayer and healing. We'll tell you about it coming up. A newly renovated church hall is being dedicated to the first millennial to be on the road to sainthood. The basement room of the rectory of Corpus Christi Church in Woodside has been named after Blessed Carlo Acutis, who at a young age learned to code and created a website that logged all the Eucharistic miracles around the world. Blessed Carlo Acutis Hall is meant for the youth of the parish, containing a ping pong table and other games. The hall will also serve as a meeting place for kids. And finally tonight, the Diocese of Brooklyn will celebrate a special mass. It's a liturgy for survivors of sexual abuse, offering them a chance for hope and healing. Jessica Easthope joins us again with more on it. Jess.
Yeah, Christine, the first step in coping with sexual abuse in the church is to listen to the stories of victim survivors. And that's just what this mass is. It was requested by survivors, and the Diocese of Brooklyn celebrates it every year. But this is the first time since the pandemic. This year's liturgy will also be the first for the diocese's new victim assistance coordinator, Elizabeth Harris. The retired NYPD detective worked with the Manhattan Child Abuse Squad for over a decade. She'll work with Mary Ellen Quinn, the director of the Office for the Protection of Children and Young People. Here they are now.
We hope that they can come together and see that there are people that are on their side, that believe them and want to do better for them.
It should have been a safe place, and they experienced a terrible trauma. So we want them to understand that it should not have happened. It was not their fault.
After the Mass at Resurrection Ascension Church in Rego Park, survivors will be able to speak with the Office for the Protection of Children and Young People. The Bishop of Brooklyn, Robert Brennan, will be the main celebrant and homilist. The Diocese of Brooklyn has gathered together all the information you need to know about protecting victim survivors in one place. Just go to thedioceseofbrooklyn.org and click Protecting Our Children. There you can find the diocese's policy and procedures regarding abuse, more information on the Office of Victim Assistance, and the toll-free reporting line. And that number is 888-634-4499. Once again, that number is 888-634-4499.
Thanks, Jessica. And remember, if you are joining us Thursday at 6:30, you can watch the Mass of Hope and Healing live on Net TV right after this. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.